And we should be live. Welcome everybody to another live stream repair. We've got a whopping 4 HomePods in today to get fixed up here. Let's see, Oliver with no power, then Randy with no power, Todd with no base, and then Tony with no power. Mars wants us to do the no base one first. Well, I've already emailed everybody that's gotten their HomePod in for repair today and told them who's who and who's next. So I can't break the order of that now that we've already told them and started, but you'll just have to stick around for it, won't you? First one up comes from Oliver with no power, so let's go ahead and open that up. This one came from Canada. Sneaky. There we go. Numero uno. Hey Oliver, glad you could make it. Welcome to the stream. Alright, I just want to make sure this is still solid. Sometimes with the smaller boxes we see a bit of damage during shipping, but this one looks like it survived. I'm thinking of sending it back to Oliver here in a slightly larger box to prevent any problems. We'll see what I've got. But let's see what this has got. So no signs of life. About 6 watts of power draw at the wall. Pretty typical symptoms for the most common no power failure mode on these, that being the shorted diode on the amplifier. Let's go ahead and dig on into it. Booyah. Let's get that display out of there. We like to use the metal tool to start the gap and then the plastic tool to actually do the prying on this layer here. Because we don't want to scratch up the bottom of this PCB, and also with the plastic tool we don't end up marring up the plastic frame underneath. Aha! Get back here. They did it again! Look at this! This is the second time I've seen this. But for whatever reason, the manufacturer decided to tie an extra, like, 2 inches of string onto the end of the existing drawstring there. You see that? And of course, we can't pull it through now. But I suppose... Let's see here. Yeah, that's strange. I have half the mind to just cut this extra length off here. I think we're gonna do that. I wonder why they do that. Proceeding. Let's get that ribbon cable detached from the basket here. And then uncover the screws for this basket. Now we can take those screws out. I was kind of thinking that HTPC, that they just have a giant spool of that drawstring, and sometimes you just happen to get the length with a little bit of a knot in it, connecting the lines together, or the spools together. I would love to see the manufacturing process of one of these. Alright, let's pry. And it's... there we go. Did not want to cooperate very much, at least at first. And there it goes again, not cooperating. But you will bend to the will of my big fat flat head. This one wants to play games. This is gonna be an off-the-desk pry, boys. Hey! 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 Easy peasy. Came off in one piece. Let's get that little bit of adhesive off here. Get off there. We don't need you. We don't want you. Good grief. All right. Proceeding forward. Let's pull out the subwoofer. Yeah. Ah. Well, okay then. That's a first. That's okay, we can fix that. Voice coil looks good. Subwoofer action feels nice and smooth. And it smells nice and like nothing. That's good. That's a happy subwoofer. Alright, time for the big chungus. You want to play games? That's what I thought. What about you? Yeah! That would have killed the wrist for sure. What about you? Yeah. Big chungus never fails. I can see it from here. That Schottky barrier diode is looking mighty roasty. Who wants to bet what date code that's on that diode? Place your bets. Place your bets. Spam caller? Huh. I just missed it. That's unfortunate. All right. We have arrived at the main event. And just taking a look at the connector here for the subwoofer that I so graciously broke off here, which that's a first for me. Never had that subwoofer connector just break off on us like that. But we can just pop that right back on there. We'll go ahead and touch the joints up with a little bit of solder to make sure that stays on there nice and neat. Yeah, huh. All right. Let's move our focus over to that diode there. Our 60 volt, 5 amp Schottky barrier diode. This is the guy that loves to short out and cause the most common no power issue. Let's confirm. Yes, indeed. That diode is unhappy. Let's go ahead and replace it. See if we can get this amp powering on. Oh, and for those of you who placed your bets, our date code on that diode is 1748K. Who's surprised? Let's tin our diode. There we go. Get some flux on the board. Here we go. Got him. Let's cool this board off in front of the fan for just a quick second, and we will give it a test. Oh, I almost forgot. I do want to touch up the subwoofer connector here since we accidentally dislodged that. We'll go ahead and put some fresh solder on there. Make sure it's nice and solid. Beautiful. Now that's not going anywhere. Now we're ready for a test. Let's put on the power supply. Where did I put my screwdriver? Oh, there we go. We're going to put a few screws into the power supply so it doesn't pop out on the bench here. That would be really bad. Then we can connect a ribbon cable for the logic board. Make sure to lock that down. And we can get a power connector. This is essentially what takes the power from the original HomePod power cable and connects internally to your power supply. I've pulled this out of another HomePod for parts, so that way we can do our testing on the bench here without having to put it all essentially back together just to test it. And then we've got our subwoofer here, which we will connect our multimeter to. If this board powers on, then we'll want to check it for any DC offset, which is a sign of those filtering capacitors starting to give up. Logic board, which is already attached to a display. And last but not least, our power. Drum roll, please. And we've got power. So, we've powered on without a problem. Let's go ahead and take it out of its default low power standby mode, so that way power gets through to the amplifier and we can check for any DC offset. And so our bass is working, and we've got a rather respectable around 1 to 2 millivolts of DC offset here, and it's holding relatively steady. So this board is ready for reassembly and some action. Go ahead and take our test parts off. Bring that shell back in here. $14 screws for the amplifier board. reattach that ribbon cable to the amplifier board in there. Drop in our power supply. Fasten that into place. Whoa, it kept my bit. Give me that. Time for our upper rings. For this, we want to make sure, yeah, see, like right here, that's going to interfere with our top basket here, sitting nice and flush. So we're going to cut a little bit of that off. That should do. Is that weed? Is that a weed? Do I need to call someone's parents? I'll tell you what. No worries, Oliver. I also partake. Maybe it's not weed, maybe it's actually like spider legs or bug legs or something, but it's oddly reminiscent of some sort of naturally occurring plant. Not sure what that is. Let's drop our woofer back in there. Turn our torque up to 4. Oh, don't be a wuss. Yeah, that's what I thought. Is it nice and sealed? Yes, it is. Looking a little dirty there, so we'll go ahead and wipe all that off. Beautiful. Time for that top basket. Yeah, I know you got more juice than that. Give me the beans. This electric screwdriver has saved us so much time on these screws in particular. Excellent little tool to have if you work on many of these. Let's cover those screws back up before we pull this mesh up. All right, one last check. Nice and sealed. All right, logic board is in and the mesh is secured. Let's tidy up those drawstrings there. putting down our display. And the final piece, our top touch cover. Let's go ahead and reheat the adhesive on here so it gets nice and sticky again. We'll slap that on and give it a test. Press that down. And then we'll go ahead and just clean that top off real fast, make it look nice and pretty. And power. Drum roll, please. Power! What do we got?
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Very nice.
I'm having trouble.
Volume buttons light up nice and evenly. So Oliver's HomePod here is ready to go. Let's put that in their box and get ready for the next repair here from Randy with no power as well. Randy. Here we go. Ooh, you guys would like me to peel that, wouldn't ya? All right. Let's check our symptoms. Plugged into power, no signs of life. Power draw is sitting at around 4 to 6 watts. Pretty typical symptoms for yet another shorted diode on the amplifier. Let's crack it open and find out. I'm going to start with our Jimmy tool here to cut through that adhesive and get this top touch cover removed. We're not using this tool to pry this off. That is how you scratch and crack this layer. All we're doing is just going around it a few times, cutting through that adhesive that holds it down. And it'll take a few laps, but once you've cut through it enough, this will just pop off on its own. You can use a credit card, some floss, some rubbing alcohol to cut through it if that's more your style. But once you get proficient with it, the ergonomics of this tool in particular just make it really easy to slice through it. Let's get the display off. Are you slightly angling the jimmy at the front? So here's how we do it. When we are prying the display off of, or the top cover off of the display, you can actually see I've put a slight bend in my jimmy tool. The metal here is actually pointing up at an angle a little bit. Not sure if you can see that too well, but that helps, as you can see here, the display kind of like domes, like this whole thing is a bit of a dome. So that little angle that I put into the jimmy tool here helps with that. So then you can see it kind of lines up with the curve there. But we're keeping our tool, when we're cutting through this adhesive, we're keeping it level with these parts here. And then once you go over it enough, it'll just pop right off. Oh, yeah, let's get the display out. Time for this frame and the logic board. Nice, nice. Alley-oop. Detach our ribbon cable from the basket. No strings attached. Expose our screws for this basket. Get those taken out. And now we pry.
Yes. Cooperate. Comply with the flathead.
Let's clean that off while we're thinking about it. And get that subwoofer out. All right. Voice coil looks good. Feels nice and smooth. Smells nice and fresh. That is a happy subwoofer. Time for that power supply. Oh boy, we got another tough guy, huh? Guess what? Big Chungus don't care. Yeah. Oh. Your style is no match for mine. And time for the amplifier. Here we go. Round 2. Let's do a quick visual inspection here. Our diode has a date code of 1746K. Everything else on the board looks all right. Let's go ahead and test that there diode. Yep. That is an unhappy diode, and it shall be replaced. Oh, you like my mat, Will? Yeah, I was pretty picky with my soldering mat when I was looking around for my first one. I noticed there were a lot of random names out there making these, but then I noticed Weller had one, and Weller's a name that I know. So I opted for this one. One main reason is because it's red. I like the red color more than the blue color that you see on a lot of other channels. This one also has a few different spots where there are magnets, so you can put stuff in there. It's got this big section here to organize screws, and it's got these lids to cover up these parts if you want to save these for ongoing projects, you know. But this one just had every single spot and cubby and magnet and feature that I saw on a few different mats, but no mat had them all on one mat. And this was mine. This was what I found. I like my mat. Ooh, we goofed up. Looks like we bumped our little capacitor there. That'll be an easy fix though. Check this out. Let's go ahead and put some flux on there. Heat this back up. Get it in the general spot, and then we'll put some more flux on there, and that should allow it to flow right back into place. There we go. Let's discard that dead diode and grab a new one. Flex up our board. Hello, Relaxing TV. Welcome to the chat. They asked, what temperature do you use for your hot air station here? So I generally, for this part in particular, I generally range between 400 and 500 degrees Celsius. We lost our little capacitor there again. A little bit of solder oozed out and caused us a little bit of a complication there, but fear not. There we go. So 400 to 500 degrees Celsius for this part in particular. For our filtering capacitors, to remove these ones, I have it set to 400 to 500 degrees Celsius. And then when we replace these and put new capacitors on, I actually go down to 250 degrees Celsius because we tin the pads on the board back here with low melt solder. Reason being, I just don't like the idea of baking my new capacitors. If I reinstall them at a lower temperature, then my idea at least is they should last longer. All right. That is ready for testing. Let's go ahead. Ooh, it's a little hot still. We'll go ahead and just blow it off in front of the fan here for just a few seconds. Yes, you are correct. A lower fan speed. I'm using like 85% fan speed for most of my repairs. But personally, I don't find the fan speed to necessarily be an issue with this little capacitor right here. The only time I end up knocking that loose is, well, when I'm pulling the diode off and I accidentally bump into that capacitor. The surface tension of the solder connecting this little cap to the board should be strong enough to hold this in place with a moderately high airspeed. But you are correct. If people are finding that they keep blowing these away, then maybe they need to turn the airspeed down a little bit and maybe use a little more flux, so that way it helps hold things in place a little better. But back to this, let's go ahead and throw some test parts on and see if this powers on. Got our power supply on. Let's connect that logic cable. Make sure that's locked into place. Get our logic board. Connect the subwoofer. Connect our power cable. Multimeter in DC volts mode connected to our subwoofer. In the event that we've got DC offset, we will see that on our meter here, which is connected to our subwoofer. Of course, relaxing TV, anything for you guys. I'm here to help you guys with any of this. Like if you've got questions about fixing your own or you're just curious, I am more than happy to tell you guys whatever you want to know, so long as I know myself. What do we got? We got power. We gotta wait for this to boot up, just like it finished now, before we can test for DC offset. Just a little fun fact if you guys didn't know. When you first power in, or when you first connect your HomePod to power and it boots up, it's not going to turn the amplifier on after it finishes booting. It's going to boot into the default low power standby mode, which basically means the amplifier is turned off and there's just a little bit of processes going on in the background to listen for the magic words. So if you want to effectively test for DC offset on your amplifier, plug it into power, wait for it to finish booting, and then do whatever it takes to trigger Siri or connect to it via AirPlay, whatever it takes to get it out of that default low power mode. I just like to tap the top of the display, and that'll turn the amplifier on. Do not do your DC offset tests while playing music. It's okay if you want to play music in order to get the amplifier on, but don't take measurements during music playback, because if I can get her to play, that will mess with your offset measurements here ultimately.
So Rihanna has shared that she wants Beyonce to model in her next Savage Fenty show, which I think that we would all love that. Like, yes, please.
Alright, well, it doesn't want to skip or play any music. It just wants to play someone talking, I guess. So not a great demonstration. But we can see that we've got our DC offset still well within spec here. So this board is also ready to rock. Let's get all those test parts off. And put it back together. Grab our shell. Drop that amp in. "14 screws later. Go ahead and zoom you guys in a little bit from the top. See a little better. Just a few more screws for the amplifier. Reconnect that ribbon cable on the amplifier. And remember, up is unlocked. Down, like that, is locked. I've got photos of this on my website from how often I get questions about this in particular. A lot of people go and do their own repairs, fix what needs to be fixed, throw it back together, but they mistakenly think that they've got the connector locked, when in fact the up position like this is unlocked. And this will result in all sorts of strange behavior when you put it back together. So lock that lever. And be gentle. Oh, HTPC knows about that. We have had a handful of folks send in their amplifier boards because they were able to do the repairs that they needed at first, but they had accidentally broken the ribbon cable connector on the amplifier board off. So I've had a few people send those in to have that connector replaced. I've actually got a spare one right here. But yeah, it's not the end of the world if you break it off. if you've got the tools for it, then you can get it put back on there yourself, or we can take care of it for you. And just to briefly cover how I do it, so to pull the connector off of a parts board, I've got my teensy tiny little vise here that I use to hold the board up, and then I'll heat the back side of the board behind the connector until the connector basically just pops off with ease. To reinstall this connector, I tin the pads on the board first with some low melt solder. I tin the pins on the connector with some low melt solder, flux it up, place it down, and then I hold the board with one hand up like this, and then I'll take my heat gun and I will heat it up again from underneath that spot until I see all of my solder start to melt. Once it sets in, we can go in with a fine tip on our iron and touch up all of the pins to make sure everything is nice and connected. And voila. You've replaced your connector. Certainly not the most difficult repair we get, though. The most difficult one, in my opinion, is actually replacing the amplifier chip right here. Because this guy's got a heck of a lot of pads underneath it, and it being a QFN, there's no easy way to get to all of the pads underneath it to ensure everything is connected, and it's also quite difficult to see if it's lined up properly. So it ends up usually taking me a few attempts whenever this chip needs to be replaced. And more often than not, if somebody sends a HomePod or an amplifier board in for repair to replace this chip, I'll usually just go ahead and replace or exchange their amplifier board for another one that still has a good chip, and then I'll take the time whenever I've got it to spare to replace that chip on the board, and then I'll have it on the shelf for the next person that needs an exchange. Pretty much every other repair we see here is a walk in the park compared to that, in my opinion. I'm sure that my technique for replacing that chip could use some improvement to end up with more reliable results. But sometimes you just gotta keep practicing till you get good at it. That's what we did here for most of these HomePod repairs. Before we even considered offering a repair service for others, I got my hands on a bunch of broken ones just so I could get the experience and the practice, and also get some spare parts built up on the side in case I break anything getting in. Okay, let's get that subwoofer in there. We don't want to forget our gasket here. And this isn't a critical step, but if you can see it right here on this gasket, if I spin it around you can see it. There's a tiny little flat cutout on the outer perimeter of this gasket here. And that's supposed to line up with your ribbon cable right here. It's not critical, like it's still going to seal fine if you don't orient this the right way, but if you want to be perfect, look for that. This is probably the only thing that you can do incorrectly when reassembling, and it won't have an effect. everything else, if you don't do it the right way, it'll, you're gonna have a bad time. Nice and sealed. Basket time. Give me that. Last check. Nice and sealed still. The system is down. The system is down. The system is down. The system is down. They're taking over. They're taking over. Logic board installed. Have you take a look on the bottom connector? Maybe we could find a way to restore bricked HomePods. Yeah, I've got information on my website. It's the first common issue that you'll actually see when you go to the common issues section on my website, which, by the way, bottom right hand corner here, nixfix.com. Check it out sometime if you haven't. I've got a whole section dedicated to all the common issues that we repair here on the channel, and a couple of ones that aren't repairable. And the first one talks about the bricked pods. There is USB and UART access through the debug pins on the bottom of the HomePod, but there's no way to restore the software. And I'm not skilled enough to do something fancy like pulling the NAND chip off and dumping the firmware on that. But we've got a few people that have been playing around with the USB and UART access through the debug pins on the bottom. Haven't heard back from any of them yet, but hopefully we'll have some good news someday soon. I definitely think it's possible. But the only thing stopping us from being able to even try right now is the lack of access to that IPSW file. that you normally get with all of the other Apple products. You know, you search like iPhone, iOS, OS file, and it gives you an IPSW. And you can normally shift click and restore, or command click and restore from a Mac and specify the IPSW file to restore from on most of those iOS devices. But for whatever reason, they don't give us access to that with these, even though there's USB access down there. So it's unfortunate, but somebody will crack it one day. I think it should be illegal for a company to prohibit and restrict the ability to restore the software, especially on a product that's discontinued, that will inevitably, when it loses the software support from Apple, become nothing more than a doorstop. There should be a way, recourse, something that users and customers and owners of these products can do with them instead of throwing them in a trash or letting them collect dust. You don't have to expose all of your secrets, but you do need to be responsible for the trash that you produce. Can't just put the onus on the customer. Ooh, I just came up with a good idea. I should call Apple support and basically tell them, just be straight up like, hey, I've got my original 2018 HomePod plugged into my Mac via USB, but I can't click the restore button. Like, you get a restore button, which is the crazy thing about it. Finder recognizes a HomePod is connected to your Mac via USB. And when you click the HomePod device, it has a restore button. But when you click it, it reaches out to Apple servers, and presumably Apple doesn't allow access to it to the general public, so it just errors out saying it couldn't find the software to restore. So I wonder if I could perhaps trick Apple here. Nah, I doubt it. But or get at least get a little attention from them on this. Perhaps if I call them and just kind of skip past the whole fact that I've soldered a USB cable onto the bottom of it to connect to it. Just play completely dumb and be like, I've got my HomePod connected via USB to a Mac, and I get the restore button, but it says that there was no software found. Maybe they'll open it up for us. Again, I doubt it, but it never hurts to ask. I did email Tim Cook with my thoughts and kind request to please allow us to restore the software on these. Please give us the privilege of restoring the software on our $350 smart speaker. Haven't heard back from him. That was a few weeks ago. Would it work if you had a developer account? That's a good question. I doubt it. I feel like it probably wouldn't make a difference because a developer account gives you access to public betas, or not public betas, it gives you access to developer betas, sure. But I never No, I have it. My Apple ID is a developer account, and that's what I tried it with. And unfortunately, it didn't work with that either. All right, let's get our thing on here. If enough people call and email Apple and nag them enough about it, I imagine they'll eventually cave in. But I don't see enough people doing that, especially as time goes on and people are only going to move on from these. I'm not. Not until they release something better. Or at least equivalent. And there's nothing else that anybody on the market makes that does just exactly what the HomePod does. And it doesn't do it as good. I don't think a network sniffer would work for a few reasons. First of all, the over-the-air updates are not complete software OS images. They're only parts of the firmware file that the system needs in order to actually update. So it's not a fully restorable IPSW. If you were able to somehow sniff and capture that OTA update and save it, now that's assuming that you can even do that. I don't think you would even be able to get that far because pretty much nowadays everything is already encrypted. The traffic from end to end is encrypted, so you might be able to man in the middle and capture those packets between the HomePod and the update server. But the actual packets themselves are going to be encrypted and basically useless to you without the decryption key. So if you manage to packet sniff and capture the OTA update, you still wouldn't be able to restore with that OTA update. If you manage to decrypt it too. Because at the end of the day, it's just an OTA. It doesn't have everything it needs. Sucks. But let's see if we got this one working, yeah? Drumroll, please. Booyah. Power. What do we got?
I'm having trouble connecting to the
I'm
internet.
sure you are, buddy.
I'm having trouble.
Volume buttons light up nice and even. So, Randy's HomePod here is all fixed up. Let's go ahead and take a quick, brief minute break here. Go ahead and get yourselves a drink, get yourselves a bathroom, and we'll be right back with the next few round of repairs. And we're back. Let's get Randy's HomePod out of the way here. Move on to number 3 from Todd with no bass. Bass. In this song, there are 3 types of bass. One, 2, 3. More bass. In this song, there are 3 types of bass. All right. Oh, let's go ahead and put this here. All right. Let's power this up. See what we've got going on here. It's booted up.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Yep.
For more info.
That is a lack of bass. I don't smell any roastiness, but if the gaskets are doing their job, then they're going to seal the smell of a roasted subwoofer quite well. So let's crack it open and see what is causing our lack of bass. Mars, are you still here? It's the one you've been waiting for. Give it up, give it up, give it up. Give it up. Flawless. Time for the display. What do you guys think is the cause for their no bass here? Did they blow out the subwoofer as a result of too much DC offset caused by failing filtering capacitors? Or is there a short on the amplifier board preventing the bass from functioning at all? Or do we have a blown amp chip? We will find out, but place your bets. Yeah, you get off there. I ain't playing games. I would just replace this adhesive every time if I had any. But some stuff you just gotta reuse. Actually, we could probably get away with some double-sided generic 3M tape here. But I like the original adhesive because it's gonna hold every little bit down and prevent any rattling. I might give that a shot on one of mine someday. Alright, relaxing TV guesses DC offset. That's also my guess. I'm gonna assume that DC offset killed our woofer. Although I would prefer if we've just got a simple short on the amplifier, because that means cheaper repairs for Todd here and fewer parts that I have to give up, i.e. replacement subwoofer. Alright, now before we go any further, we can actually check here if our woofer is bad by simply pushing it in and feeling how smooth that is. It should be perfectly smooth. But if you're pushing it straight in and it feels scratchy, making scratchy sounds, then it's bad. But this one actually feels good. So I have high hopes. This isn't always, the doof test. This isn't always a guarantee that your woofer is good if it passes the doof test. But it's usually a pretty good test. If it's roasted, then you're almost certainly going to feel it. And if you do feel scratchiness, then, well, you know for certain it's dead. It shouldn't feel like anything. My only complaint with this screwdriver is it's clearly got the torque to take this screw out, but sometimes it'll just randomly stop itself. It's so strange. Like that. I didn't stop that. It just did it by itself. Again. Now that one I can understand. That's a tough one. There we go. And now we commence the pry. Oh, that's coming up nice. Oh, so nice. Oh. Oh. Again, you've got the torque, my guy. Why do you stop? Alright, this one I can understand. Wow. Come on. Yeah. And the grand reveal. Well, if it'll... There we go. Voice coil actually looks good. Still feels nice and smooth. And it smells just fine. So, presumably, that subwoofer is A-OK. Which means we've probably got a short on our amplifier. It's not often I see the amp chip itself blown up. It's pretty rare. It happens. But more often it's a short somewhere else. And the amp chip is usually fine. Here we go. And all right. Our op amp chip here looks to be in good condition, as well as everything else on the board. We've got a date code on our diode if you were curious of 1748K, but it looked like it's ran a little hot. We're going to replace that diode there regardless of what else is going on here. But let's go ahead and switch to the up close camera, and we will check for the most common short on the amp here that causes our no bass issues most often. That is going to be this little guy right here. And I don't think I ever figured out exactly what this is or what its values are. Let me check. No bass, short near amp IC. It appears to be a 27 microfarad capacitor of SMD size 2012. The other values are unknown. So what I've been doing when I find these shorted out is I've just pulled it off of another parts board and replaced it that way. Let's confirm with our multimeter Yep. You see that? Let me show you with a good board here. Here we go. Here's a good board. And if we check the same capacitor on here, it's clearly not supposed to be short. But this one is. So we're gonna go ahead and steal. Actually, no, we're gonna keep that because that's our working good board there. But we're gonna find a parts board that we can steal that from. I've already taken it from that one. I've already taken it from that one too. And that one. And that one. And that one. And that one. Ah, but this one still has it. Let's see, is it still good? Nope. This one's actually bad too. Ah, but this is a no bass amp. I never figured this one out. Well, that I can fix. I'm going to put that in my fix for later pile. Let's see. Here we go. Here's a good candidate. So this board was sent into us a long time ago, actually. It had no sound, and it also had prior repair attempts. So after spending a few hours on this one trying to fix it, I basically gave up. But let's see if we've still got a good cap there that we can take. Oh, nope, that one's bad too. So that's probably what's wrong with this board as well. We'll set that into my fix it later pile. Find another one that we can sacrifice here. What about this one? Oh, I think I know what I'm doing wrong here. You see that? My probe keeps touching this capacitor back here, and we want to check just this. So let me double check that these other ones that I thought I could fix are actually... Okay, so that one's actually good too. So we'll go ahead and pull that off of our no sound prior repair attempt board here that someone sent in. There are no schematics available for the HomePod. Absolutely nothing. I wish there was. That would make a lot of people's lives a lot easier. Give me the goods. Give it to me. Yes. This isn't a resistor, actually. This is a capacitor. It appears to be 27 microfarads according to my multimeter. But it would be nice to have the schematics to know for sure, along with the other specs of this component that may be critical. Oh shit. Which one was the good one and which one was the bad one? That's the bad one. Yep, that's the bad one for sure. And that appears to be our good one. And for posterity, we'll go ahead and measure the capacitance here. So our bad one actually measures off the scale that our multimeter can read for capacitance. Our good one is showing 25 microfarads. So let's put that bad one in the bad parts pile. Put a little more flux on the board. That'll help hold this down, and we can reflow it into place. Alright. We shall confirm that our short is no longer present. Should have done that when we had the old part off, but with enough experience, you know which shortcuts you can take. And we're still looking good. Any short? Nope. Short be gone. And that's on there nice and solid, yeah? Yeah, that's not going anywhere. Alright. Before I forget, and while we've got everything ready to do it, let's go ahead and replace that Schottky barrier diode right here. You've seen us replace this diode in particular on all of the HomePods with no power, but we replace this component on every HomePod that comes in for repair, regardless of what they're in for, simply because we see this part in particular fail and short and cause issues the most often, or it is most often the cause. So, and it looks kind of roasty. So regardless of the date code on there or its current condition, and with the uncertainty as to why this actually fails, we err on the side of caution and replace it every time for every repair. The part is cheap enough. It only takes an extra minute or two of our time, and it's worth it for the peace of mind. Oh, someone had asked if we can use a higher rated diode in place. When I looked, I measured the DC voltage on these pads here. It only went up to 12 volts. So I don't think it's a... I have a hard time believing the diode isn't the right part for this part of the circuit here. It's probably suited for it just fine. I'm leaning more towards there simply just being a bad batch of these that tend to fail under the right conditions. Most likely during a firmware update. That's what most people end up telling me is they do a firmware update and then they experience no power. And I think perhaps when the logic board is undergoing a firmware update, it must be drawing extra power or something, doing something to this area in particular that's causing this diode to fail. But only the ones with certain date codes that we've seen so far still. 1746 or 1748K have been the only two that we consistently see fail. And then, just for example here, this one that we pulled off this board that was working just fine has a date code of 1742K. And that's usually what we see, is we see all these diodes that still work with date codes other than 1746 or 1748K. I'm kind of just rambling at this point. Old man yelling at sky. Alright. Let's cool this board off real fast. And we'll see if we've got our base back. That should do. Let's grab a power supply. And let's get that cable out of the way here. Ribbon cable. Subwoofer. Logic board. Power supply connector. Multimeter on the subwoofer to check for DC offset. And power. Let's see what it's got. Let's check for DC offset. Okay, so we've got 118 millivolts of offset and growing. That's going to need to be taken care of. Let's go ahead and just check that our base actually works now, though. Ah, yeah. Yeah, that's bass. So, we got a little DC offset to take care of here. It's not quite at the threshold where it would trigger death farts, but it does look like it's growing at a decent rate, and it'll fast approach damage territory and death farts. So let's go ahead and replace those filtering capacitors. Oh, brother, you better believe it. When I, in the middle of the day while I'm working, if I'm not on a phone call, I am blasting music through my HomePods. And it is 10 of them in a small room is a hell of an experience. You feel it in your chest, you feel it in the floor. You can really, really feel the dynamic range and the separation of the instruments. Hey, Relaxing TV. Have a nice day, and thank you so much for dropping by. It was good chatting with you. Oh, HTPC. Oh my goodness, brother. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. I completely skipped over that. We would have remembered at one point. Eventually. Let's see here. Get those caps front and center. Watching out for me, thank you. No, those went everywhere. That's all right. All right, old caps be gone. Let's get some low melt solder on those pads so we don't have to torture the replacement capacitors so much getting the new ones on there. A little more flex. And we begin. Did you see that? Absolutely magic. Alright, those look nice and solid on there. Let's cool this board off again. We don't want the heat impacting our test results here. Keep in mind, with these types of capacitors, it's natural, it's just a part of the design of them to inherently lose their effectiveness at filtering DC the hotter they are. So if we just jump into testing as soon as we replace them, we're likely going to see more DC offset than what it will normally have at normal operating temperature. So we just want to cool this off for a minute here until they're at least not warm to the touch, and then we can get an accurate measurement. All right, let's see if we fixed. Okay. Offset. Beautiful. So we're hanging out at around 20 millivolts. It's probably going to continue dropping until those reach their normal operating temperature there. But nonetheless, that is well within spec again. So this board is ready to rock. Ready to doof. Doof the doof. Now let's put it back together. reattach our ribbon cable down there. Lock it in. Power supply. Alright, that's what I thought. The cats are going wild. All right, is that nice and sealed? Yes, it is. Time for the basket. What are you checking to determine a good seal? So, if the subwoofer is bent, or the gasket for the ribbon cable isn't in correctly, or the gasket for the subwoofer isn't in correctly, or if this gasket on this retaining ring here isn't sealing properly, then I can hear the air leaking out, pushing the speaker in and letting it go. You'll hear the air going. And of course we check after we put all the screws in, because the screws, if you over tighten any of these, or they're not tight enough, you could end up with an improper seal still. Still sealed. Oh man. I'm gonna have to tear my microphone off our setup here and bring it over to my main PC to use for my interview tomorrow for The Verge. They wanted to talk to me about my HomePod repairs here, and they invited me onto one of their podcasts tomorrow to talk about it. So I need to rip my microphone off of our streaming setup here and borrow that for tomorrow. And when that gets put out, I'll be sure to share a link to that for you guys on my community tab on my YouTube channel. So keep an eye out for that. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty nervous. Because, I mean, never in a million years did I actually think that someone like The Verge would reach out to me and ask for an interview. Kind of blew my mind. I had to go and brag about it to my wife, too. I was like, Kira, you know who The Verge is, right? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, they want me on a podcast to do an interview. She's like, oh my god. And then I go, ay, 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 ay. And everybody's just, ay, ay, ay. We're all excited. But I'm still pretty nervous about it. Really just worried about not having the right answers for folks. Or not having enough knowledge. I don't know. I'm just nervous. You can be nervous about this kind of stuff, right? Of course you can. I gotta be careful that I don't say anything outright defamatory against Apple, because I do not want their lawyers on my ass. I've already always been a little bit on the edge based on my website design being similar to Apple's, or at least similar to the design it used to be when the HomePods were still being sold. But I wonder if since I've changed it enough that it falls under free use. I also put just an outright disclaimer at the bottom of the website saying I am not affiliated, sanctioned, or in any way partnered or associated with Apple whatsoever. This is purely a third-party independent person, repair service, etc., etc. So I think I CYA'd as much as I could. look, Mr. Apple, Mr. Tim Cook at Apple. I'm not out here to defame you guys, talk shit, put you down, or anything like that. All I want is a little bit of repairability. All I want is for you to give me the privilege to restore the software on our $350 smart speaker. That's all I'm asking for. Schematics and other stuff would be nice, like parts, but we'll start with the easy one, which is let me restore the software. Please. I'm begging you. We're all begging you. Thousands of people would be asking you the same thing. Please. Please, Tim Apple. Maybe to get their attention, I just gotta send them a bricked HomePod with a note. I mentioned this in yesterday's live stream, but maybe I just dye a HomePod red. Do a really good job at it. Make it look absolutely perfect. But put a bricked logic board in it. And then send it to Tim Cook. And then when he gets it, or presumably one of his assistants, they'll open it up and be like, whoa! Red HomePod, that's sick! And then they'll go and plug it in and power it on and it'll be bricked. And they'll be like, oh, okay. Probably won't accomplish anything. But I can fantasize. Looks like we have a little bit of an obstruction with that volume button down there. Let's clean that off. There we go. Is the top cover itself clear? Yes, it is. And they'll get their help desk to restore the IPSW. And then they'll have the balls to tell me that to say thanks for the HomePod, we restored it. It's working great. Thanks. What I kind of worry about happening if I tried that would actually end up being Apple getting it, one of their assistants seeing that Tim Cook got a package, and then probably just throwing it away. Being like, nah, we don't want to worry about that. That could be like a bomb threat or something stupid. But yeah, that's basically my main concern, is they wouldn't even bother opening it. It would just go straight in the trash, or they would open it, but they wouldn't do anything with it, and it would, again, go in the trash. Yeah, you gotta think about probably how much shit that people send them every day. Who was that guy on YouTube that actually sent an AirTag to Apple? If I recall correctly, I'll have to rewatch that, but I don't think it actually it made it to an Apple campus, but it never made it to Tim Cook himself. I can't remember what the end result of that was. I'll have to go back. But Mr. Todd's pod, do you work? Have it rigged to explode when plugged in? What the No! Absolutely not. Do we got bass?
I'm having trouble connecting to the
Oh
internet.
yeah.
For more I'm having trouble.
And volume buttons light up nice and even. Todd's pod is ready to rock. Yeah, you know Schwa. I can't make the jokes. I'm on video and all that. You guys can make all the jokes you want, but I gotta watch what I say. Alright, we've moved on to our fourth and final repair here today, which will be Tony's with no power. This is probably going to be another typical no power repair here. Let's open it up and find out. The box within a box. I can dig it though. Oh! They even wrapped up the cable all nice. Wow. A+ job on the packing, Tony. Bravo. Let's nix that power cable so we don't even need to worry about this thing. We've never seen yet the power cable be the cause for any problems. Let's go ahead and check our symptoms. Yes, sirree, no signs of life. 4 watts of power draw at the wall. So based on that power draw there, we've probably got the same as most other no power pods here. Let's go ahead and take it apart and find out what's going on from the inside. Give me that back. You can't have that.
Get.
Time for the party.
Oh, yeah. Get him. Get him. Get him. Oh, yeah. Give it up. Yeah.
I got some RIT dyes yesterday. I'm thinking of a bit of customization while my HomePod is apart. You've inspired me. Ah, that's good to hear. Color that pod. I don't know if you noticed, but I added another section to the website. Or at least for now, it's under the common issues section, but I added a new section under common issues on the website. Just briefly touching on customizing and coloring your HomePod. Although that's probably, yeah, that's where you got the idea, okay. But I've got a couple pictures up there on a few examples of some that we've done for others. Time for the woofer check. Voice coil looks good. Feels nice and smooth. Smells fresh. Like a happy subwoofer. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. It gives it plenty of time to dry out before you put it back together too. That was really stuck on there. All right, quick visual inspection. All looks fine. Looking good. Our diode here has a date code of, you guessed it, 1748K. And if we check that with our multimeter, that diode is shorted. Let's see, maybe The Verge heard about you from the Alternative Tech podcast. They have a big audience. Maybe. That would make sense. Apple does deserve a proper spanking for not allowing the software to be restored. Crazy that they'll ship you all the tools for iPhone screen repairs, but exactly, yeah. What's crazy is, like I said, you can get USB into the HomePod, connect it to a Mac. Finder recognizes that a HomePod is connected. It says HomePod. You can click on it, and it has the serial number and the model number of the HomePod. It gives you a restore button. Yet when you click on it, cock blocked by Apple. If our understanding of that is incorrect, then Apple, please correct us. But that's what you're making it look like there, guys. I could understand if they just never thought people would get that far with it, but it's there. They must have used it internally. So, just why can't... yeah... I would even be willing to accept if Apple publicly came out and said, look, the blinking volume buttons issue is not software, it's hardware. But if they say that, they have a responsibility and we are owed an explanation on what exactly is it, at the very least. I don't know. Maybe we are just entitled consumers and we're supposed to just blindly buy stuff and throw it away and buy new stuff whenever that old stuff doesn't work anymore. I don't know, man. Like, yeah, if Apple comes out and says, look, there are no provisions, there's no hardware support to restore the software, I'll accept that. But not without an accompanying explanation as to why a HomePod would get blinking volume buttons. And not just that, but you can't tell me that there are apps. You cannot tell me that it's absolutely impossible for a HomePod to experience software issues and need a software restore. So to tell me that there is no way to do it because you don't need a way to do it would be absolute malarkey. Malarkey, I tell you. Yeah, that's unfortunate, Schwa. That's exactly how it happened to me my first time. Out of the dozens of HomePods that I have, and out of probably the few dozen that I've owned over the past few years, I've personally never experienced a HomePod brick itself and show the blinking volume buttons until actually a few weeks ago, when I came home and one of my the first HomePod that I ever colored, the first HomePod I ever customized and shared the results with the internet, that poor thing bricked itself. This is actually the logic board from him. Old blue. I went ahead and swapped the logic board with one from my super secret stash just to keep it going again. But I was still really salty about that. Nope, it wasn't in the middle of a software update, and I know that because they were already all up to date, and I have automatic updates turned off. Yeah, I have automatic updates turned off because the last thing I want, despite having most of my HomePods on backup battery power, there are a few around the house that are just simply on surge protection. No battery backup. So in the event, in the off chance that an automatic update gets pushed and I'm sleeping or there's a storm while I'm out and the power temporarily gets lost during that update, you may be able to just kiss it goodbye. I'm not willing to go and test whether or not interrupting the power during a software update is for certain to kill it. Obviously, because if it does, there's no way to fix it, and I'll have destroyed a logic board for little benefit. We got power. But yeah, if we have a way to fix it, then I would love to check that and verify that that is a way to reproduce the issue. But I'll sacrifice amplifier boards because those can usually be repaired. There's no software on them to brick, so pretty much the only thing you can do with them is replace board components on there. And I'm happy to trial and error and fry a few amplifier boards to learn something, but logic boards, not so much. So do we have any DC offset here, or are we looking pretty happy? We've got about 16, 17 millivolts of offset there, and it's not growing very, very fast. So I think we're going to go ahead and leave that because that's already a pretty good result. It's well within spec, and if we replace the filtering capacitors, we may not end up with any better result. So, that said, if my interpretation is incorrect, and a few months down the road, your filtering capacitors are in fact going bad, that's covered under my warranty. I will cover shipping both ways to have you send it back, and we'll get you taken care of. But from what we can tell here and now, they are still functioning well. So we're just gonna leave that. Somebody theorized that there's something that goes awry with the real-time clock on the logic board, and a series of hard resets from the power, just unplugging it, leaving it unplugged and for a while and plugging it back in, may get it to resync or reset or something like that. In which case, obviously, that would be a software issue. But there are plenty of reasonable explanations for theorizing the blinking volume buttons being caused by software issues. But I won't discount the possibility that it could actually be a hardware issue. What are we doing? We're putting this back into the HomePod. We're done here. You also can't discount the possibility that we may have multiple root issues causing blinking volume buttons. Like, it's possible that a given hardware issue can cause it, but also a given software issue may also cause it too. We are left to our own demise and hypotheses without any help from Apple. Yeah, I'm not trying to, you're absolutely right. I'm not trying to, like, piss off Apple or throw any shade at them. I just want to fix stuff, man. And I just want stuff to be fixable. If Apple offered me a job to work for them, and that job was basically just them giving me pre-production hardware and giving them feedback on how they can make it more repairable, I would take that in a heartbeat. HomePods, believe it or not, actually have a DFU mode. To put it into DFU mode, it's very simple actually. You flip the HomePod upside down, and then you plug it into power and connect it to your computer. Voila, DFU mode. You want to get it out of DFU mode? Unplug its USB, unplug its power, flip it upside right again, plug it back into power. No more DFU mode. They have a DFU mode. It's crazy. But we still can't fix it. When I first read that, how DFU mode works on the OG HomePod, I laughed out loud. Literally. I was like, you're kidding me. That's absurd. And I tried it, and sure enough, Apple Configurator recognizes the HomePod in DFU mode when you plug it in upside down. And then it'll kick itself out of DFU mode if you flip it around again. Man, it really boils my butter. Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, The gyro is actually somewhere on the microphone simplicity board right here. It's not in the logic board. And I think I was able to confirm that, if I recall correctly, by having all of my test parts out here, right? And then testing with it powering on with the logic board upright, and then flipping the microphone board. And that's when I noticed it went into DFU mode, but I might be misremembering. And you may be wondering, why did they put a gyro in there if it's only for DFU mode? Oh, well, good sir or ma'am, it is not just for DFU mode. They actually put it in there to also recognize if you move the HomePod while it's plugged in, it'll see that, and it'll, in theory, it should recalibrate itself for the new placement if it detects movement. But they also happen to repurpose it for allowing you to put it into DFU mode. Pretty interesting stuff. Still kind of odd that they would go as far as to do that and use that for automatic repositioning. Because if you think about it, more often than not, if somebody's moving their HomePod, they're probably moving it farther than the power cable's length allows, and they're going to unplug it from power, move it, and then plug it in again. In which case, the gyro obviously isn't going to see that because everything's powered off. So, it's I wonder what else they could possibly be using it for in there. If more than DFU mode and repositioning. Apple being Apple, yeah, think different. Alright, why are you being so tough, guy? There we go. Drop the bass. Sealed check. Sealed. Why did it hold that message for review? It's a seal. YouTube, you're going to allow SexChat69 to spam up my live stream chat, but you're not going to allow HTPC to fucking, excuse my language, to freaking post a seal emoji? Busted, Buster. Who you calling busted, Buster? That's right. I'm talking to you, Sid. We toys can see everything. So play nice. And then Sid freaks out. Nice dolly. Oh yeah, to this day, iFixit, when you Google iFixit HomePod disassembly, iFixit still has their original teardown, cutting the thing apart. And, well, credit where it's due. You never know until you know, you know? So, sometimes people have to do things the dirty way in order to find the clean way to do it. So, no shade at iFixit for sharing and documenting the way that they disassembled it the first time. They were one of the first to crack it open, so... Final seal check. Still sealed. But especially when Apple doesn't give out any information on how to tear it down. Sometimes you just gotta break it apart to bring that information out. We are nearing the end of our repair stream today. Yeah. Why do their messages not get automatically hidden, but a seal emoji is? Good timing. Good timing, sexfind.xyz. Thank you for proving my point. Also, I appreciate that you think my channel is worth your time with spamming. You think anybody here is really going to click one of your links, bro? Come on. I've already got plenty of hot singles in my local area. I just got to check my email spam folder. Drowning in them, you could say. Also, I wonder what's up with this. There are clearly at least 3 of you guys watching, as evident by Schwa, HTPC, and Telegraph's chat messages there, but YouTube tells me I've only got 1 viewer right now. Not sure what to make of that. What constitutes as a viewer? Yeah, man, if I ever need, I know where to go if I'm ever looking for hot singles in my local area. The volume buttons on the display here had a little schmoo on it. Got that cleaned. I wonder if it's just not designed to be accurate for less than like a few hundred watchers or something. Like it's only supposed to be a general estimate and not like an accurate number. The algorithm is in need of repair. I'm afraid Nick can't fix this. That top's looking a little dirty. Let's go ahead and clean it off. We're gonna grab our microfiber, a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Then we'll dry that off. If we don't dry it off, then it'll leave streaks. But there you go. Mwah. Let's see if it's fixed. Drum roll, please. We fix. We fix real good.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Very nice.
I'm having...
Very nice. Very nice. All right, folks. 4 for 4 today. I'm quite happy that, who was it? Was it Todd? Yeah, repair number 3 today from Todd with no bass. I'm quite happy that they didn't need a new subwoofer and it was just a little bit of board repair there. Alright, if any of you guys have any questions about any of the repairs that we've done here today, or anything about HomePods or just repairs in general, you're always welcome to leave a comment down below. I always suggest folks that are doing their own repairs for HomePods to check out the website, nixfix.com at the bottom right there, and head over to the common issues section, where you'll find all of the issues that we commonly repair here on the channel, including steps to diagnose and repair those issues, as well as any parts you may need to do that. If instead of fixing it yourself, you'd rather send it in to be repaired here on the channel, I've got my contact info up on my website as well. You're welcome to send in the whole HomePod, or if you feel comfortable taking it apart, but not so much with the board level repairs, I'll work with you. I'll take whatever you want to send. In any case, hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you all for the chats, too. It's been good talking to you guys. Always love a little bit of engagement there. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.